All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we recap everything that happened on Friday in Santa Clara. Check out Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili. Tell them the Krug sent you. We should also tell you that these 49er practice reports this season are brought to you by our friends at Plank, the 50,000 square foot entertainment eatery at Jack London Square in Oakland. Plank just opened the Hub, a brand new sports viewing space with a massive 30-foot media wall, over 70 TVs. It's the ultimate spot to watch every game. Right now, Krug Show listeners get 15% off through December. Just mention my name, and you'll get 15% off games, food, and non-alcoholic drinks through the end of the year. Really cool spot. Bring the kids. They're going to love. There's bowling, there's bocce, there's arcade games. There's a 15,000 square foot outdoor beer garden with 30 or 40 different beers all on tap. A lot of great stuff. Go to plankoakland.com. Once again, that's plankoakland.com. And thanks to Plank for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's talk a little bit about today in Santa Clara. The Niners getting ready to take off to Cleveland, where the forecast is for Sunday about 39 degrees with 25 to 35 mile-an-hour winds. Could be some rain, could be some snow, could be what they call a wintry mix. The Browns practiced today in this weather. The Niners have not practiced even with a wet football. So who's going to adapt to these conditions better? The Browns, who play in these conditions and live in these conditions, or the 49ers, who play and live on the West Coast, don't ever see snow, rarely see rain, and Brock Purdy, for whatever reason, really struggles to handle a wet football. It's probably going to be the Browns who play better in this game. That would be my guess. Now, the other thing that Kevin Stefanski said this week is that Jim Schwartz, his defensive coordinator, who has been great against Kyle Shanahan, I think he's like 8-1 against Shanahan, that Schwartz gets more aggressive with his defensive calls in inclement weather. So when the weather's worse, that's when Schwartz actually really dials up whatever he's dialing up. And so Niners ought to get ready for it. Jim Schwartz and that wide 9 defense have had, there's a reason that Kyle Shanahan wanted to have Chris Kasarik and the wide 9 be the Niners' defensive scheme of choice, because that is the scheme that bothers him the most. So get ready for Myles Garrett, who's got 14 sacks in the last 5 games. There is no defensive end in the history of pro football that has ever had 14 and a half sacks, I think it is, in 5 games, going back to 1982 when they first started keeping the sack stat. So there you go. Simple as that. Expect cold weather, expect windy weather, expect wet weather. How will Brock Purdy adapt to that? I asked him this week. I said, Brock, how concerned are you that that in these conditions you won't be able to really grip it and rip it, because that is ultimately what you need to do? And he said, hey, it's always a concern. It's always a concern. Now, will the Niners pull Brock Purdy for Mac Jones if Brock's not playing well? Well, normally I would say don't ever consider doing that, but Brock Purdy is struggling with turf toe. His arm strength doesn't look the same. His accuracy is not quite the same. His ability to get away is not quite the same. And, and your backup quarterback, Mac Jones, is 5-3 and just completed 85% of his passes in his last start. So I would like to see the Niners go to Mac Jones if Brock Purdy can't play well in this game. I don't think Shanahan will, but I would like to see it. As far as the injury situation, Tatum Bethune is out. Sam with an ankle injury. Sam O is out. Eddie Pinheiro with a hamstring is out. So we're going to see more of Matt Gay as the kicker. Somebody else is going to have to step up as an outside rusher, and Curtis Robinson probably draws another start at inside linebacker. CMC did practice today. He got the Veterans Day off earlier in the week. Expect CMC to have a huge performance in this game, because the Niners are going to go to him as a runner, as a receiver. He's 40% of their offensive output. So they're going to go to him. They're going to go to him a lot. Now, as far as the Browns injuries, Alex Wright, their young defensive end from UAB, he's out of this game. So he will not be in there. The Browns are down a couple defensive ends. But Wright is the guy who's probably the biggest name who's not going to play. Shanahan talked earlier today, and he talked about a number of different things. He said he sees no difference between the Ricky Pearsall who was productive and the Ricky Pearsall who hasn't done anything the last 2 weeks. So, once again, the 49ers drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round. It absolutely is not in their interest to in any way badmouth him, but he hasn't gotten anything done. And ultimately, talk's cheap and action matters, and no touchdowns is no touchdowns. And that's where he's at. He's played 5 or 6 games. He hasn't scored any touchdowns. So, but according to Shanahan, he sees no difference between the Ricky who was productive earlier this year and the Ricky who's come back and it looks like he's just running around out there not getting anything done. Shanahan was asked about, their travel schedule and the sleep patterns, and he did admit that now him and his staff embrace, sleep and the advantages of sleep much more so than he did when he originally came into the league. Kyle Shanahan was asked today about the Week 14 bye, and he admitted, I would have preferred it to be earlier in the year just for the injuries and when we needed it, but he said he feels like they're playing better right now, and he does look at the Week 14 bye now as an advantage, that they have one less game between now and the finish line than many of the teams they'll be going up against. So would have loved the bye to have been earlier, but at the same time, definitely feels like it's an advantage to have it where it is right now. He was asked about Jim Schwartz and the wide nine, and Kyle Shanahan has basically been unable to go up against Jim Schwartz and do anything. He's got one win against Schwartz his entire time with coaching, and it was when Schwartz was in Tennessee. So I don't know. I mean, Schwartz, I think it's partially the scheme, but I think it's a lot the fact that they've got great players on all 3 levels. Denzel Ward is as good a corner as there is. Carson Schlesinger is a really good inside linebacker taken with the first pick of the second round. And then Myles Garrett has been terrific up front. And if you really don't like this Browns front, you can blame the Niners because they cut Malik Collins and allowed Collins to sign there. Collins has been a revelation. Getting rid of Malik Collins was a stupid move by the Niners. They had the cap room. They didn't need to get rid of him. They could have kept him. They opted to move on from him, and he's playing great in Cleveland. And they are not getting great defensive tackle play, so that was not a very smart move. As far as Eric Kendricks, Kyle Shanahan was asked about the newest 49er. The Niners signed Eric Kendricks, the veteran linebacker, to their practice squad. And Shanahan revealed that they've been talking to Kendricks throughout the year. And that, he wants to be a Niner and has wanted to be a Niner. And the Niners have wanted him for a while to be a 49er. And they've been talking to him, that they were just waiting for the right time. And they feel like now is the right time. So Eric Kendricks is going to be, I would imagine up in this game. Definitely going to be up in the next few games. And can the veteran linebacker help the 49ers? That's going to be something to watch for. One other thing to remember about this year, it's amazing what the Niners have been able to do considering they've had an arm and a half tied behind their back. I mean, Purdy missed 8 games. Kittle missed a bunch of games. Pearsall hasn't done squat. Ayuk hasn't played. Fred Warner's done for the year. Nick Bosa's done for the year. They've just had a nightmare run. And yet, look at the dead cap and the cap on the IR, and look at their record. The Niners have $103 million worth of player contracts that are dead cap. Guys that aren't on the team anymore that they're still paying for because of bad decisions that they made in previous years. So $103 million of dead cap. Mix into that number, or add to that number, $66 million that's currently on the injured reserve. So the Niners have $66 million of injured players. They have $103 million of dead cap tied to players that are either injured or no longer on the team. So you've got $169 million of your spending in a hard cap situation not available to you, not doing anything for you. And yet the Niners are still 8-4. So it's really amazing that it shows how easy their schedule is, and it shows that they actually had a pretty deep football team when this thing started. Now they've got 103 million in dead cap players, 66 million in IR players, and they're still 8-4. Still one of the best teams in pro football. So it just kind of shows that this year has not gone well for the 49ers, and yet they're still kicking. They're still alive despite all of the adversity they have faced. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to our good friends as well at Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to our friends at Sleeper. This 49er football season is presented by Sleeper. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.